So, hi everyone, this is Chris Theodore. There are 63 days before the next presidential election, which will occur on November 3. If you haven't yet made a plan to vote, I really encourage you to do so. And there are a couple ways you can do that. You can text VOTE to 30330, I believe. As well as you can check out turbovote.org, which is a fantastic way to be sent reminders up until Election Day. So today I want to talk about why I reject Trumpism and Trump from the context of fatherhood and as a protector of my children and as someone just like you are, if you're a father or a mother, you care about your kids and you care about making sure that they are safe. And there is actually, when it comes to safety, what I think about is not necessarily what an opinion is, if whether the world is safer or not, but there are actually evidence-based and fact-based, scientific-based ways that we can determine how safe things are over time and through the years. And one such way is something called the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. And it came together in 1945. I believe Albert Einstein was one of its founders, and today it has 13 Nobel Prize laureates working to determine how safe are we. And they created in 1945 something called the Doomsday Clock, in which they use the minute hand, a clock, to measure how dangerous the world is. If it goes back from midnight, it means we're getting safer. If it gets closer to midnight, it means it is getting more dangerous. And they have many different indicators that they use in order to determine how dangerous the world is. And at midnight, that is basically signifies that there has been a catastrophe and that there will no longer be life on Earth because of catastrophic climate change, where the Earth no longer supports human life, or nuclear war in which everything is wiped out. And you can imagine that this is, as a parent, this is actually quite helpful to determine how safe are we. And I want to read you some of their what they've said. Humanity continues to face two simultaneous existential dangers: nuclear war and climate change, that are compounded by a threat multiplier, cyber-enabled information warfare, that undercuts society's ability to respond. The international security situation is dire, not just because these threats exist, and this is kind of the kicker, but because world leaders have allowed the international political infrastructure for managing them to erode. In the nuclear realm, national leaders, let me pause that. In the nuclear realm, national leaders have ended or undermined several major arms control treaties and negotiations during the last year, creating an environment conducive to a renewed nuclear arms race, to the proliferation of nuclear weapons, and to lowered barriers to nuclear war. Political conflicts regarding nuclear weapons Political conflicts regarding nuclear programs in Iran and North Korea remain unresolved and are, if anything, worsening. US-Russia cooperation on arms control and disarmament is all but non-existent. Public awareness of the climate crisis grew over the course of 2019, largely because of mass protests by young people around the world. Just the same, governmental action on climate change still falls far short of meeting the challenge at hand. At UN climate meetings last year, national delegates made fine speeches but put forward few concrete plans to further limit the carbon dioxide emissions that are disrupting the Earth's climate. This limited political response came during a year when the effects of man-made climate change were manifested by one of the warmest years on record, extensive wildfires, and quicker than expected melting of glacial ice. Continued corruption of the information ecosphere on which democracy and public decision making depend has heightened the nuclear and climate threats. In the last year, many governments used cyber-enabled disinformation campaigns to sow distrust in institutions and among nations, undermining domestic and international efforts to foster peace and protect the planet. I'm going to stop there because I think what is absolutely clear when you think about where Donald Trump has played a role in this is his furthering the destruction of the information ecosphere through lies and discrediting of our own institutions, failing to allow his aides to follow the course of checks and balances and respond to subpoenas, for example. So he is not helping this situation. He is the person who pulled the U.S. out of the Iran deal. He is the person who pulled the U.S. out of an international nuclear arms treaty that Reagan signed after a lot of work. So that is another reason why I reject Trump and I reject Trumpism.